Welcome to the National Women's Fitness Academy podcast. We're here to talk about women's health, female hormones, body image, and all things health and fitness.
Hello, girls, and welcome back to another episode of the Women's Fitness Academy's podcast. I'm your host, Siggy, one of the educators and a women's mindset and wellness coach. Today, I have a lovely guest who is a lovely friend of mine. Her name is Gemma Mullins. And if you don't know Gemma, you need to go stalk her on her Instagram right now because she's a Melbourne-based coach and is also the founder of Uplift Movement. Now, she's on a mission to helping women to feel confident, strong throughout the gym, but also through resistance training, nutrition, and lifestyle. And I wanted to bring Gemma on board today because she has a really cool story about why she started strength training and where she is right now. So Gem, the mic is yours.
Thank you so much for having me. And I loved that intro. You absolutely nailed it. I'm so grateful to be here. And I'm so passionate about getting on and talking about my journey and coaching because you and I both feel so strongly about what we do. We're clearly, super passionate, which is amazing. But also it hasn't always been this way. So the reason that I am so keen to, tell my story and impart some wisdom on people that were where I used to be, maybe 2015 and prior, where I was so anxious to train in the gym, and the complete mindset shift I had is something that I want to really basically tell other people that they can have too if they can overcome some of that discomfort that you feel along the way.
Yeah, it's so true. And too often we have that discomfort because it's involved a lot with a mindset. And I know you're very big around that. And I would love to know what inspired you to get started during that time in, 2015, and how has your mindset evolved from then to where you're at right now?
Yeah, so essentially prior to 2015, I had a gym membership for 9 months. But to give you a bit of an insight into my personality at that time and my self-confidence, in that 9-month period, I would walk in and go straight to the left to the females only area. I never saw the second story of the gym, and I was super self-conscious, and all I would do is just one piece of equipment after the other, and then I would leave. And even though I needed to cancel that membership because I was moving and I wasn't really using it, I was so anxious about the conversation around canceling that I just let it go on for months. So that, just to give you a bit of an insight into my self-confidence as well as just how timid I was in a gym, that's where I was at. And I quit that gym membership because, again, I said I was moving and I was just in a bit of a rut. It was a January 2015, I believe. And I was like working 3 jobs. I was super unbalanced in my life. I was just work, but there wasn't really enough for me. And I felt like I was just being burnt out. And I just needed to change. So I kind of winged it. And on the way home from where I was living, there was a boot camp and like something that I never would have done, but I just was feeling called to do a session, and I had like a free trial or something like along those lines. So I went to this free trial and it was full boot camp commando style, right? And it was either like, I'm going to run out of here, I'm going to fucking love it. And I did a class and I ran to the toilet and dry reached. And then I was like, sign me up for 12 weeks. And I honestly don't know what possessed me, but just being in that class, I found it so hard. Like, again, I was dry reaching, and then I just did 12-week challenge 1, 12-week challenge 2, 12-week challenge 3. And in that time, like a fire had been lit. And from there, so much has happened, but it was just honestly deciding that I wanted something more and just realizing that I've just got to send it, because there's no point just saying one day, because it wasn't happening. So I needed to do something different.
I love the fact that you mentioned that it started from the boot camp and then you continued on doing 12-week challenges. And I know you're very similar to my mindset around challenges. However, they do serve quite a good purpose, as you started, there was a challenge, you went for it, you did it again, and like, look where you're at right now. Like, you're teaching other women to do the same, not in that similar aspect, but you have grown to understand and cherish what you've gone through to be teaching what you're doing right now.
Absolutely. And from the challenge point of view, which I'll speak to when I talk more about, you know, my mindset shifting and how I kind of became a little bit obsessive, I would say that the challenge still had a purpose in the sense that it was a community vibe. It gave me structure. I didn't have to think about what to do. And it was just very much just like show up and get it done and leave. So from that point of view, it was really good, but it definitely had a ceiling for the goals that I wanted to reach. And I just wanted a more long-term sustainable approach, which I also preach now as well.
Let's talk about the mindset shift, because too often, as you mentioned, where you started off feeling very self-conscious, just doing the one exercise here and there, and then sign up to the boot camp feeling absolutely sick, but you're like, yes, let's fucking do this, to where you're at right now.
Yeah. So essentially I did the 9 months of boot camps. I was just a complete psycho during that time, but I was loving it. It was just all so new, and I have this mindset or sickness, whatever you want to call it, where like when I decide that I'm doing something, like I will move water to do it. I will like absolutely get it done. So I was just like completely on this challenge bandwagon. But the issue that I had with this is with doing a challenge was a super restrictive meal plan, and was just this whole other kind of in a long-term negative associations I was starting to get with food. Like, I understand and believe that there's a purpose to understanding what's in your food and tracking, as well as increasing your nutritional literacy. But at that time, it was very much just my mindset in a challenge, and there wasn't really a what do you do after that. So after the 9 months of doing this, I felt like I was ready to try to give gym another shot. And I wanted to try a different gym on the way to where I was working in Hawthorne. So I signed up to a Good Life. And what really helped me at that time, because again, the thought of the gym made me anxious, but I did feel more confident because I've been exercising for 9 months. So I got my best friend, Morgan, who was studying exercise science at the time. And I was like, can you just show me how to use the equipment? Or at least can we come together a few times just if we're in the same room, I'll feel more comfortable. And that really, really helped me, because we would just be existing in each other's presence, but it was just nice to be like, I'm safe, like it's okay, everything's fine. And over time at that gym, I just started, you know, training more consistently, getting more comfortable and branching out in different areas of the gym. I started again in the female only area when Morgan wasn't there, and then I felt more comfortable. And then beyond that, I was like, okay, I'm winging it in the gym. Like, we're in the gym now. I'm a gym girly, but what am I actually doing? And I still spent a decent chunk of time at that gym just winging it. And it just came to a point where I was like, okay, like I'm not really getting anywhere with this other than the fact that I feel better in a gym. And then that's when I reached out to work with a coach. And that was the first time I'd actually invested in myself. But in the lead up to that, when I talk about my winging it stage, I was doing like the Kayla Itson's 8-week challenges. I was doing all of that. And I just felt like I was just smashing my body and I wasn't really getting anywhere. And they're just like, I was chopping and changing every week. I'd be doing the BBG, then I'd be on the cross trainer. And then like, it was just a random little shit show. And it wasn't until I finally just was like, actually, I need someone to tell me what to do, because I'm in marketing at the time. This isn't my expertise. I don't know who I think I am, rolling into the gym doing all of this shit. So that was the best thing I could have done for myself.
It's so funny how you're chatting about how you started Kayla and then the BBG and then you did cardio and you did this. It's literally bringing up so many memories when I started my fitness journey as well. I'm very similar to you too. I would go into the gym. I would do sprints on the treadmill. I would go to the lat pull down, do 4 sets, back to the sprints, and then do some completely different exercise. No idea what the hell I was doing, but it's so relatable, because I'm sure a lot of our listeners going, oh, this is me, or this was me. Like, how do I get out of this, this episode of not knowing what to do? And like you said, at the time you were in marketing, you had no idea about training or exercise. So the best next thing to do is hire a coach.
Yeah. And I think that there was a mindset shift that came with that as well, because it's like, where do my priorities lie? If you think about coaching, I remember at the time I reached out to someone and I was like, oh, PT is expensive. But in the same breath, I would be going out like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or whatever I'd be doing. And I'd be spending money on alcohol, or I'd be spending money on clothes. So it really wasn't that it was expensive. It was just that I wasn't seeing the value in it at the time. And I also just had mismatched priorities. And as soon as I started looking inwards and thinking, actually, I am the investment. And I actually, as soon as I did that the first time, and for every preceding course I've invested in, that's just my mindset. I'm like, I am the investment, and it's always paid off for me. So I built on that trust that I have with doing that as well.
It's so powerful to have that inner trust, because too often that self-doubt can creep in, and it ties in really nicely into quick fixes, the challenges side of things, because too often people will sign up to a program or a coach and be like, I want results immediately. They don't get them, and then they leave.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a big educational component that comes with that as well, because I get that mindset, and it's good to have some small wins in, the first couple weeks. And that's why it's important to focus on wins other than just scale weight. But you really need to have that mindset of, this is going to benefit me forever. Like, why is there an end goal? Like, there isn't an end goal. There's little goals along the way, but there's no negative of resistance training for the rest of your life. There's only wins. So I feel like we need to shift the mindset around it always having to be short term.
100%. That would probably be the quote of this fucking podcast right now, making people realize there's no end goal for living. It's just a continuous thing.
Yeah, it's honestly going to help you in so many other facets of your life. It's not a fucking 8-week challenge. It's increasing your quality of life. Like, what more could you be wanting to work towards? Like, when you're older, having better bone mineral density, when you're going through menopause, having more muscle mass on you, like, everything along the way, every life phase you're going through is going to be benefited from you looking inwards, making time for yourself, and getting fucking strong.
If I had a mic right now, it would fucking drop.
Dropping it.
I want us to continue having this conversation about investing into personal trainers and coaches. And obviously we're very biased because we are ones. But like you said, we started at a position where we didn't have any, we didn't know what to do. And then that was like a turning point for you. What specific changes or even lessons did you learn throughout that process?
So because I spent this time, just essentially what I feel looking back is semi-wasted, because I just wish I started, doing the right thing sooner. So as soon as I invested in the first coach, it was just good to get, form correction and just knowing that I'm doing the right thing. So then when it comes to training intensity, I felt more confident in ramping that up because I had the peace of mind knowing that I'm doing it correctly. So that really just helped from a training intensity and being able to gain muscle point of view, because I was eliciting the response I needed, which was to train hard. The other point was just having the programming looked after was really helpful as well. So that was my first coach experience, was just going through that. And then after that, I invested in another coach. And that's when I felt like the lifestyle component was factored in, the nutrition was factored in, recovery, all of that. And that's when I felt like this investment was actually collapsing time, because within, 10 to 12 weeks, I felt like I had learned so much in this window that I, as I said, wish I knew earlier. And the skills that I was learning were things that I knew that long after this coaching relationship were going to stick with me. So that was a light bulb moment I had, just being like, wow, look how much, when you've got the support of somebody, think about how much quicker you're going to get to where you're trying to go with the right guidance.
With the right
guidance, yes. Caveat.
Let's talk about what isn't the right guidance. I feel as if, because too often, we're wanting to lead people and making them understand what's beneficial, but too often I feel as if not many people are talking about what is the wrong guidance of a coach.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody, like if I was a Gen Pop client and somebody was pushing me into competing, which happened with the first coach, unfortunately, but I think that is just basically setting them up for failure, because it has to come from within, whatever their goals are. And another thing I think would be some coaches who, like training a certain way, may potentially inadvertently be biased towards those training principles or nutrition, and that's inadvertently pushing that onto their clients. So I think that a few things with the wrong guidance would just be not giving the right intervention for the person in front of them. So whether that be being too strict or being mismatched with their lifestyle, as well as, anything else that happens where potentially working outside of their scope, giving really, really rigid meal planning or advice that they actually can't back. So things that are trending but might not necessarily be research backed. So that's the kind of things that kind of come out to me now as being red flags. And when it comes to looking for a coach, because I always have a coach or get coached throughout the year or mentored by different people, I'm looking out for those things. I'm looking out for credibility and social proof. And I'm also looking out for, are they keeping up with, changing research and things that are coming out, or are they fixed in their bias and one way of doing things?
Let's talk about the bodybuilding, because I feel as if a lot of young women are aspiring to look a certain way or even go on a stage. Too often it's not an idea an inspiration that comes from within. It's influenced by other people.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to add that in there, I competed with WBFF. I was one of the tall girls in the lineup. I got the 9th place, and that was the first thing I ever competed was WBFF in the Gold Coast. And like that whole journey was very eye-opening because of how rigid and how strict and all that goes into it. So I have that background of being like, I haven't competed multiple times, but I've competed once and I know kind of what's involved. And I think that from a coaching point of view, if you have Gen Pop people reaching out to work with you, which is what majority of the people are that will want to work with you, will be, someone wanting to get fitter, get into the gym for the first time, etc. And I think that there just needs to be an educational component around the fact that if you're reaching out to work with me because you like how I look when I'm, stage lean or whatever that may be, this is what it has taken to get there and this isn't sustainable. And I think that conversation is really important because I have respect for competitors because of the grind and what it takes to get there and that tenacity and all of that. Like that is its own sport. But for anyone on social media who's not aware of what's actually gone down to get there, I think that that's a really important conversation to have because if someone says, I want X, I think they need to know that this is why, what's actually happened to get there. Do you really want to be taking Tupperware containers of chicken and rice to a wedding? Probably not. And you don't need to, because if your goal is just general health, fitness, and some body composition changes, you don't need the level of rigidity that comes with a professional bodybuilder, for example.
100%. And I'm so glad that you brought that up because too often people don't see behind the scenes of what competitors go through. And
it's horrifying.
Yeah. And again, it's not just an 8-week, a 12-week prep. It is years on end.
Yeah, exactly. It's a level of obsession, but that is what is required for the sport. But it's just not a level of obsession that, 95% of the population need for the goals that they actually want and what they value.
Yeah, so true. While we're talking about, what isn't the wrong guidance from a coach and what to look out for in terms of like the red flags, when someone is wanting professional advice from a coach or from someone, what advice would you give them if someone is struggling in this area to finding joy in their fitness journey?
So a client wanting to find joy, just a new person wanting to train, I would say that the top things that have helped me and my clients has been finding an environment that they feel comfortable in and that provides a good community can go a long way. So maybe you don't find joy because the gym that you're currently training at is, doesn't have the equipment you want or isn't very warm and welcoming or something along those lines. But there's a gym down the road which is super friendly, warm, everyone knows your name, and it's not that busy. Whatever it might be, like don't feel like you need to be stuck with that one environment and that's just what gym is. It's not. There's multiple different variations of that. And I believe that your actual gym environment and training environment will go a long way in you feeling motivated and accountable. And I myself have felt that way. And that has been a reason why I've changed gyms. And to the gym that I'm currently at, it gives me all of those feels. And that's why I've never left.
Let's talk about those feels, because I feel as if certain people may be a little bit confused of like what feels good, because sometimes people will get too much in their head and be like, is it me or is it like a they problem?
Yeah, so like an example would be I've joined or previously trained at just like a generic chain gym. I just won't say the name, but just a generic gym, and just felt like there was a lack of equipment and gym etiquette just around training. And then I also just felt like just reception was pretty rude and just like wasn't just the vibe that I was wanting to train in, essentially. And I was just wanting somewhere different. So I joined the gym that I train at now, which is Emerge in Doncaster. And the reason that I joined was because the first day that I went on their opening, before they ever opened, the owners just took me on a tour around the gym. It was a really good experience and professional from day one. And then I discovered that they had a connection with coffee. So there's always like double espressos getting handed out as you enter. And everybody that works there is super friendly and welcoming. The equipment is amazing and it's a beautiful gym. And I just feel like it's a tight-knit community. And that feeling is night and day. I look forward to driving there. I look forward to that space because it's a positive association that I have. And I think that that's what we should be striving for if we have the luxury of having access to a few different options.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. There's nothing more exciting than going to an environment, or especially at a training environment where you're wanting to feel safe and comfortable training, is somewhere welcoming.
Yeah, that welcoming goes a long way, even if it's just a smile, like, hey, Gemm, or whatever it is, just that feeling of inclusion and just a familiar feeling of knowing where everything is and that you have been there before is really nice.
Yeah, it's so true. Reflecting back on your lessons, including, trying new things, like coming back from like the start to where you're at right now, but also enjoying training and having fun with the process. Can you share some specific instances where stepping out of your comfort zone led to positive results?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a few different things that come to mind. I would say that the initial thing that was a massive leap or comfort zone that felt really anxious at the time was I decided that I wanted to work in fitness, but I was also working in like a corporate role and I was kind of working my way up the ladder. And I just felt really pulled to work into this industry because of how much of a positive impact it had on me. And even though it didn't seem like the safe option, I was really happy that I did just make that jump and decide that I was going to figure it out as I go. I just went head first in it. And so many different learning curves happened because of that. And it wasn't a straight path to where I am now. It was doing classes, trying things. This doesn't work. Okay, let's try this. But I'm just really glad that I took that risk because it's really, I'm so happy with where I am now and I just see longevity in the industry. And I think that's a good example. Another would be, as a newbie coach, I just felt like I really lacked confidence. And I was also wanting to meet other people in my network. And one example would just be I signed up to a few different courses, like 3-day courses. There was like a Sebastian Orbs squat, bench, deadlift course and a few others. And like I went to those being quite anxious. Like people, they might ask me questions. What if I don't know? Who am I going to sit next to? All of that. But I'm just so glad that I did show up to those, multiple different seminars that I've done, because every time I've like met a new person that I'm still connected with, or I've just taken a lot of value from it. And then the most recent example I can think of is becoming friends with Kate. So if anyone doesn't know Kate Morris, she's amazing. We love her. But the big thing with her was I was working by myself in this office and I just felt there was a level of loneliness working as an online coach because my friends don't necessarily do what I do. But I really resonated with what she posted online. And the I just felt like making a new friend. And when I DM'd her, I had that level of, what if I'm rejected? Or what if she thinks that there's an ulterior motive? I really don't know. And she replied being like, fuck yes, I actually stalked you last week. Like, I wanted to be your friend as well, which is the most wholesome example of like becoming friends with someone in your late 20s, 30s for me. And that's paid off massively because she's one of my best friends. So I think that all of those examples are like, things feel, stressful potentially when you're embarking on a new challenge or a change, but that growth is necessary. Otherwise you just stay stuck. So it's like, choose between the discomfort of being stuck where you are now, or choose between the discomfort of pushing through to a new evolution, new friendship, new business, new gym, whatever it might be. Like, that's your choice.
Again, we always have a choice.
Yeah, we always have a choice.
Yeah, it's so funny how you mentioned the text messages with Kate, because too often I come across coaches who do feel that loneliness and then do feel though there's no one else that they can talk to. But like, as you did, it's just taking that chance. If you get rejected, so be it. Just go to the next person.
Yeah.
It's taking that chance and choosing like what direction you're wanting to go to.
Yeah, I actually had before I became a coach, actually, my mindset started to shift into this whole, like, your confidence is what you put out there. People don't actually know internally. Essentially, another way of saying fake it till you make it. And I had a moment where just before I quit my job, we had like a LinkedIn open day. So I was going to the LinkedIn head office in Melbourne, and it was a networking event. And then I sat in my car before going upstairs, and I just had this moment where I was like, I'm about to sit in a room full of strangers. They don't know me. I have the option to walk in, sit down, keep to myself. I have the option to be extroverted in that moment, invite, like, meet everybody, walk around. They don't know any different. They've never met me before. So I was just like testing this theory, and I went in and I was like super bubbly and I was asking everyone questions, et cetera, et cetera. And then everyone talked to me for the day because I was like the one that's going to make everyone comfortable and like, welcoming, et cetera. And I sat in my car and I was like, holy shit, like how I connect with people is really just what I put out there. So it's like, if I tell myself that I'm not going to have a good time and that no one's going to be friendly, it's like, what's my body language going to be? But if I choose the opposite, what have I really got to lose? So I have started to shift that, and I now put myself out there all the time because I just see so much upside and so little risk.
Oh my God, it's so funny how we're literally talking about this, because last week I went to an event where I only knew 2 or 3 people, but they were participating in a certain activity, and I was just going to go and watch them. And I had similar thoughts to you. I was literally sitting in the car going, okay, I either have this decision whether I'm just going to like talk to anyone and everyone, or I'm just going to like stick to myself and then talk to the people that I know. But the people that I knew were training. Like, it's not as if I could actually chat with them. So I was like, okay, let's fucking go. Let's do this. And exactly like you, I just started talking to like random people, and mind you, I'm still talking to them now. So it's like you're making friends that way.
Yeah, and so many connections that I've made just like being friendly to someone have led somewhere else unexpectedly. Like, I'll meet someone and I'll just be nice, and then like next minute, like 9 months down the track, they'll be like, hey, can you train my sister? Like, just something really random will happen, but it's like, if you didn't initially like make an effort to get to know somebody, you don't give that a chance.
100%. And you know what? I can totally resonate with the fact of like having that anxiety before it, because again, as humans, we tend to think of the worst first and then, seek that positivity. And too often people are afraid of that rejection. They're afraid of that judgment.
I think we suffer twice in that situation, because we suffer with what we think could go wrong, and then we suffer the second time if it does go wrong. But my mindset is essentially, why suffer twice? Like, tell yourself that good shit's going to happen, because if good shit happens, then you're winning. And if it doesn't, then it wasn't going to anyway, and you're going to learn from something.
Yeah, exactly. And again, like any experience that we have, whether it's a positive or a negative, there's always a lesson out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
And with
it's
that
so true.
mindset, I feel like, sorry for cutting you off, I was going to say, with that mindset, I feel like you can build more resilience to weather things that do go wrong, because rather than it becoming a vicious cycle of bad things always happen to me, it's kind of like, no, we can move forward because we can think about something we've learned.
What do you think? I want to ask you a question, but like, I also want to make our listeners understand that Gemma wasn't always like this.
No.
So this is something that you've been able to cultivate over the years. And I know there's been a significant impact through training, hiring coaches, putting yourself out there. But what do you think was one ultimate aspect that helped you change that mindset?
I honestly feel like it is resistance training, and I really wish I could just fucking bottle it up to anyone who hasn't trained before and give them the feeling of self-confidence that comes from learning that you can do something you didn't think you would be able to do. Like everything that has come, that good that has come in my life in the last like 8 years has just come back to the fact that I have gotten a voice, felt like I belong in a community, feel like I can help other people. I honestly feel like unstoppable from a gym environment, and that mindset has helped me with other avenues that I've gone down. And I honestly brings me back to resistance training and to the gym. And from there, everything else is built. So that's what it comes back to. But it's just the self-belief that I've been able to build on by just showing myself that when I show up and invest in myself, it always pays off.
Well, I think this is the best reason for people to continue or start resistance training.
Yeah, 100%. I just want to bottle that shit up.
And sprinkle it on everyone.
Everyone, I just want you guys to feel the feels, but that's okay. I'll work on everybody. Slow grind.
Yeah, we'll get there. Eventually, we'll change the world.
Yeah, potentially, yes.
I love that. Gemm, thank you so much for joining me today, babe. I know a lot of our girls are going to have a lot of epiphany moments about all of this.
Thank you so much for having me. That was a great chat.
Girls, if you enjoyed today's podcast, please make sure that you screenshot, tag us at the Women's Fitness Academy, tag myself, tag Gemm, and then till next time, get on that horse and start resistance training.
Into it, gals. No time like the present.